me tell you something that I know. See, when demons come up against me, I rebuke them. I ain't scared of the devil. Anything that God gives me, ain't nobody gonna try to take over, because I ain't gonna let you. You understand? There's a time and place for everything. And it's called be respectful. Be respectful. I brought y'all here. Y'all came out on the Saturday to sacrifice your time. And I want you to get what you came here for. Amen? Amen. Amen. So, any questions you want to start with the panelists? We want to start with Mark C. And Mark, don't use your preaching voice because you have to leave.
How y'all doing? Mark Hannon, retired VA employee and veteran, host of Mark C. radio show every second, fourth Sunday at 5 o'clock. And also, when I was out there caught up in addiction, I was beat up, beat down, stabbed 9 times. And I treatment, lost my house, my car, my job, came bum on Harvard Road, not that way today. God praying spiritual footwork. Retired from VA where I went out of treatment off and on for 8 years. Why did I say that? The reason I said that, we have a traumatized city. When I got stabbed 9 times, I dealt with it with addiction. So what's going on? We got the crack addiction on top of the heroin addiction for 35 years. The collateral damages, the murder, youth homelessness, nobody talks about that. 2,500 youth homeless that go to school. We got young men standing out here that don't have a family and things like that. So give yourself a hand for coming to this training. We need all hands on deck. What I'm getting ready to do, I gotta leave because I'm gonna meet the brothers over at Yosemite. We've been walking, we got sisters walking with us now. We had 200 people get jobs, 100-something people go to treatment, thanks to Dr. Humphrey and his team. And that's what I'm getting ready to go do now. We out here in the streets, we're gonna be out here, and we need all hands on deck. We don't want the police to save us. All we want them to do is get out their cars, patrol the areas and do their job. We don't want politicians to save us, just do your job. So everybody got to vote. This is the most important vote for mayor in the history since I've been here. 2 young ladies murdered this week, 32 years old, and both of them in their early 30s, just shot to death. You know, that's where we're at now, city. So we need all hands on deck. Thank you.
Let's give Mark a hand. Brother Mark, he invites me on his radio show, and I invite him on mine. Any one of you that have something to say, that want to come. Anybody that has something positive, want to come on the radio, see Sister Selena Jordan. Put your hand up, Sister. Amen. Amen. So next I'm not skipping you, but he's been patient. Next we have someone, whatever question comes to your mind, right? You know, people say you're guilty through association, right? Jesus went to the least of them, and he went to the guttermost to the uppermost. And you know, when some people have pigs, who they gonna serve? That's not cool. So, in the past, when you would be with somebody associated with them, they thought that, you know, association, you know, a similarity, you know, association with somebody else doing, you doing it too. But I'm saying, if it had not been for the grace of God, none of us would be here. Because, you know, the master paid the price that none of us could pay. And I have a lot of respect for Peanut, and he has a lot of respect for me. Dennis Wise was supposed to be here. And we want to get this movement going, and then we're going to move it on down. So let's give him a hand.
I first want to say, give some of my history with trauma. Like, for me, I grew up in trauma. I guess that's poverty. To me, back then it was poverty, but it was trauma. So what do you do with trauma when you was born in it? I think a lot of us here was affected in different ways. But for me, I was born in trauma. And my fight, like everybody got a different fight, but how they want to deal with trauma. So for me, like some people went to church, some people went to school, tried to get out of it. You know, I came up in a community was like 60% of the community didn't have jobs. Most of the people was on social service. The first time I got arrested, I was 7 years old. By the time I was 16, I had over 30 different charges, given as a juvenile. And when you talk about trauma, the community was traumatized. There was a lot of violence, but the community still cared about one another. So it was an era where most people didn't have nothing. We had a lot of civil rights leaders fighting for civil rights. I used to walk down the street in some white areas and it said no colored people allowed. You know, so this is how far back things go. It was on the news where they had lynchings down south. When they had lynchings down south, up north, we did things to try to even the score. When they did marches with Malcolm and Martin Luther King, we supported the marches and the movement and going forward, but we had to do it the best we could. In Baltimore was a city that seemed to be traumatized and different. And from a neighborhood perspective, they had like a shield over us in terms of blacks in the city where you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. The jobs was few. I think minimum wage might be $1.65 or something like that an hour. And most of the families probably had like 5 to 7 kids. And so you really had to survive pretty much on your own. And it was single parents because most of the men had left. So it was like mother coming up with 5 to 7 kids on her own trying to make it. I'm just painting a picture for me. That's how it was for me. I don't know how many of y'all was old enough to remember pot belly stoves where you got to put coal and wood in, give it the heat, to get the heat to warm stuff up, plastered in the window. I grew up in a pretty bad time in terms of poverty. So early on, I made it my purpose to say that I got enough of it. And I took it into my own hand from a crime perspective. And I went out and did me the best I could to change the situation and help some of the people that I love and cared about. And that was because I was traumatized. And I know I was living amongst a community of people that served the same type of trauma. I don't want to jump back, but if I was to jump, I try to compare yesterday to today. This was just like 2 days ago. And when I put it side by side, today we live in a worse time than we did even then. So I can understand like some of the, and I don't mean to be bad, but I can understand some of the killing from the kids. Because what happened is, they took everything away from them. They took all the elders, put them in prison. They got, in terms of poverty, they living in impoverished communities. They closed down public schools, forcing them to do one thing or another, and took away recreation centers. So when you start taking all these things away, this is what you wind up with. Actually, I think it was a conspiracy, to destroy us today. And my fight early on, even though some people look at me as a monster, because I did what I had to do, and at the time, I believed that was the way to do it. So I looked at civil rights. They wound up killing Martin Luther King. They wound up killing Malcolm X. They ran off most of the people with civil rights. So, just the march at that time didn't seem to work. When you get to blacks, even with police officers, there might have, in 65, there might have been 2 blacks on the whole police force. When I went into federal prison, it was 2 blacks in the whole prison system as correctional officers. So today we came a long way. So I don't know how many of y'all can know about history. And they looked at me, I can hear it, I remember what he said. There's some people saying like, how could you have him? But you can judge the way you want to judge. One thing I didn't do was sit down and do nothing. That's what I didn't do. And I didn't go for nothing then, and I ain't going for nothing now. But today I can do it a different way. Today I can do it where I can help instead of take. I didn't even know that back in the day that when you sell drugs, things you do in the community, how it can affect other people. Because what I did it, then I turned around and tried to help the people. See, ain't that counterproductive? I mean, how can you sell drugs and do things on one side and then turn around and try to help the community on another side? I mean, my intention was to help. I mean, and my intention today is to help. The only thing difference between today and yesterday is today I know how to help.
Wow.
You know, so- and even when you get to in feelings of love, I mean, I listen, I can be honest. The only thing I probably really love probably was the game itself. You mean, it was the streets, that's where I come from. You mean, then I had to learn how to love. And the first thing I had to do was love me first. You know, and once I love me, I learned how to love other people and care for other people.
So Peter, tell us about the people never knew you as Maurice. I never knew you as Maurice. Who was Maurice?
Maurice is who you talking to. You mean, but so I continue to move forward from a child on. At 17, I went to the penitentiary. From the penitentiary, then I was really determined to make a difference at that point. So I came back out and did me and tried to do me the best way where I could make a difference to my family and the community. But I never knew that what I was doing was actually leaving the path to destroy the community. You mean, with the best of it. You mean, and you can't just put all of the blame in one place. I came up in an era where I looked at the government as the enemy. You mean, they never did nothing for our community. I looked at the police department as oppressors. You mean, because all they do is ride around trying to lock, they never tried to help nobody in the community. They just went around policing, just trying to lock you up if they see you doing something wrong. And that's the way the police been all the way up to just about now.
That's right.
I mean, they haven't been to help us. I mean, when they get to a white neighborhood, they actually help them. When they get to our neighborhood, they oppress us. I mean, so I never had respect for the police department. I never had respect for the government. So the only thing I really could respect is the people that I've lived among. I mean, try to do the best for.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Yes.
Coming up as a child, I remember hearing stories about you, like, kids and like that. But what I want to say is that, honestly, today, I have a totally different view of who you are, like the one Dr. Humphrey said.
You see Maurice?
Yeah, I see you as not just your name, but as a man of your word and trying to make a change.
Absolutely.
You know, as a 22-year-old son who, you know, it's always said that a woman can't raise a man, that a man needs to raise a man. And what I want to say is that I look to you as for guidance to talk to the youth that's out here on the street today, to let them know that they don't have to go the same way and make the same decisions that you made at a younger age. You know, so I honestly have nothing but the grace and respect for you. Thank you.
2 weeks ago, I was at the governor's office. They called me and the guy you talked about, Dennis, down to try to come up with some kind of ways that where we could try to curb some of the violence and the killing. And my response, what I said at that point to the lieutenant governor, that when I was into the game, I was 100%, I don't know how to play the 50. When I went into the game, I was 100% in the game. And I didn't care what happened and who would happen to. You mean, my thing was to make it to the goalpost. But once I changed my life around and learned how, you mean, to love and care about things, because the things that I was trying to get, I was actually destroying. You mean, and I found, and I do, it's a blessing from God that I got a chance to rectify that. I did 37 years in prison, and it's a blessing to be here, to get another chance to correct that. But I was telling the lieutenant governor that I'm the same person, but on this side, I give 100%. I don't know how to play the 50.
That's right.
So when I did step over, I mean, I'm here to stay. And there are a lot of things. I understand trauma, and the kids are suffering from trauma. And I don't think there's nobody in here that's not suffering from trauma. I mean, maybe from one way or another. It's hard not to suffer from trauma and being from Baltimore.
Say it.
I mean, so I heard the guy say earlier that 25% of people suffer from trauma. I disagree with it. I believe everybody in here suffers from trauma, from one perspective or another. You mean, but learning how to deal with it, you mean, effectively, and trying to help people instead of tearing down is the way to deal with this. And if anybody do have any questions for me, I'm open to answer any.
Amen.